And we're live with the November Security Plus Study Group. Hello, everyone. Just kind of getting started here. I don't even have my headphones in yet. I don't even know if I'm hearing myself. Hi, everybody. Hello, chat room. We haven't even popped out the chat room. Let's do that so I can at least see what's going on here. Let's see if I can figure out all my new keystrokes. There we go. Got a whole new thing going on. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for being here. I've got all new Security Plus Q&A in this first hour. We'll talk about how you can participate if you're here live. And then in the second hour, I'll take questions from the chat room about anything you'd like to talk about. Doesn't have to be Security Plus. It can be really anything. All right. Now I can hear myself much better. All right. Let's do a quick check of recordings. We are recording locally. My new streaming box does not record, so I've kind of lost one of my recordings. I used to have 4 recordings that I would create for every study group. Now I create 3. Is that still too many? I don't know, but that's what it's going to be. Hey, chat room. Hey, Arizona. Hey, St. Vincent. Hi, how's everybody doing? It's we're coming up on pretty close. We're a week before Thanksgiving here in the United States. So I'm looking forward to next week. Hello, Manassas, Virginia. Thanks for being here. Hello, Michigan. We've got lots to look at here. I'm wondering, it's kind of warm here in Florida. It's 75 outside, high 78 today. I think we're going to need some air conditioning in this studio. I'm in the process of changing a few things out in the studio. Can't really tell from this angle. There is a bar. There's a new bar that kind of goes up from the desk here. Swapping out some lights for the back. I've already swapped out the lights in the front. Nobody even really noticed. But I'm swapping out lights in the back, kind of minimizing the footprint of the studio. Technology is just changing so fast. With these things. It's so difficult to keep up, it seems, but it's made my life so much easier. I can get smaller lights, better lights. It's fantastic. Hello, Kentucky and Ireland and Minneapolis and Poland and Arkansas and Huntsville, Alabama. There's quite a mix. That's quite a collection of this. Let's studio, and it shows, of course, that my studio is offline, which is exactly what you want when you're ready to turn the air conditioning on, is that you can't reach the system that is used. That's odd. That's unusual. I think I might be having some type of issue. I'm gonna have to stand up and go walk over there and click it. One moment, everybody. That's one of those where I have to physically get out of my chair to do something. Feels good, doesn't it? I think that's a good thing. Oh, what else we got going on? Hello, Australia. What time is it in Australia? What are you doing up? I do have replays of these things, which are available immediately afterwards. Hello, Texas and Utah. Good to have you here. Steve in the chat room passed Security Plus on November the 10th. Congratulations. Used my exams, my tools, podcasts. I'm so glad. So glad we were able to help. Hello, New Hampshire and North Carolina and Italy and New Jersey and Arizona. And there's Florida. Hey, Florida. Good to have you here. My fellow Florida people. We've got North Carolina. It's snowing. Logan says it's snowing. Here it will be 78 degrees Fahrenheit. One of those things where I am kind of happy about where I was born when it gets into the winter time. 4 a.m. in Australia. I'm not sure why you're up watching this, but I appreciate that you're here. And thank you for hanging in there. 777 Savage taking a CCNA on Sunday. I don't know that I can provide much security support for that in this particular session, but every little bit counts, right? Hello, Little Rock. More Arizona. Atlanta. Good to have you here. Maryland. My Maryland. Denver is here. New York City is here. There's the UK. There's PR. I'm assuming that's Puerto Rico. There's Ontario. My Canadian people. I will let Mrs. Professor Messer know that you were here. She's the one to always check in. Taking your exam December 24th. That's an unusual option for taking your Security Plus exam. But if you got the time, it's not like anything else is going on, right? That's one of those things. We got about 2 minutes before we get started. Do I have all of my ducks in a row? I'm not entirely certain. It's been a very busy morning. There's been a lot of other things going on outside the scope of the studio and a lot of things going on in the studio. So I feel like I'm juggling a little bit, and suddenly I don't have to juggle right now. Everything kind of stops for the live stream. So that's what we're doing. Am I planning a CISA Plus study video / course? I have lots of plans. I have lots of ideas. I have a big list, but I would say CISA probably not the top of the list, unfortunately. It's just not, does not have quite the popularity that I need. It is a popular certification, but it does not have quite the coverage that I'm looking for my courses. At least I don't think it does. These things change day to day in my mind. I wake up and think, you know what? Maybe I was not thinking right about that. No, there's always things. SIG-ISSP is another one. It's just so niche that I don't know if it's a good fit for me. There's plenty of places you can go get CISSP training, and I get it. It would be nice to have more options. But I have some other ideas of things I want to be able to do. I just haven't figured out what they are. As of this morning, I finished Network Plus. So that course is done. So I'm in that mode. Your questions are good because I'm in that mode to think about, well, what should we do next? I know that A Plus is coming up at the beginning of the year, probably first quarter, second quarter. So that will be the next big one that goes through. There we go. Top of the hour. That has started. This has started. You're here live. Let's do a live stream, everybody. Here we go with the study group. Roll graphics. Hit camera 1. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the November 2021 SY0-601 Security Plus Study Group. Thanks for being here, whether you're here live or whether you're watching on a replay. We're so glad that you're here and able to join us. We have so much that we will be doing in the study group today. In the first hour, I will present you with questions that come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. And in the second hour, I'll just take questions of any kind about anything. It can be about Security Plus. It can be about IT. It can be about certifications. It can be about anything else. You're welcome to put those into the chat room in the second hour. We've got a lot to go through. And if you are here live, we would love for you to be able to participate live. You can answer these questions online. You can simply pop open a new browser window and visit professormesser.com/QA. That's where you want to go. There's a question waiting for you if you do that right now. Of course, everybody needs an app for these types of things, and you can, of course, get your app from your favorite app store. The app you're looking for is called the Socrative Student app. That is the one you want. Not the Socrative Teacher app. That's the one for me. Socrative is the service that we use to do this. If you use that Socrative Student app, it will ask you for a room name. The room name is professormesser.com. And if you do all of that, and if you have got the right room name and you've typed everything in properly and you're at a page, you will see a question waiting for you. That question asks, which of the following focuses on a user's control of their personal data? Is it PCI DSS, SIM, HIPAA, SOX, or GDPR? This is a question, by the way, and our standing rule, of course, is that you do not answer questions in the chat room. You instead go to the link that's on your page, professormesser.com/QA, and lock in your answer right there in that URL, professormesser.com/QA. The question again, which of the following focuses on a user's control of their personal data? Is that PCI DSS? Is it SIM? Is it HIPAA? Is it SOX? Or is it GDPR? We'll come back to that in just a moment. Well, thank you for being here. We do one of these study groups every month, and we do actually many study groups every month, but we do one Security Plus study group every month. When we're not here, you can, of course, see all of the things we're doing out on YouTube by visiting us at professormesser.com/YouTube. We also have a weekly Security Plus pop quiz question that you can find at professormesser.com/Twitter. Or if you like your question with a pretty picture, you can go to professormesser.com/Instagram. What we're going to talk about today is the SY0-601. This is an exam that was released relatively recently. It was November 12th of 2020, almost a year ago. We just missed the anniversary here on the live stream, but it's about a year, which means it's still going to be around another 2.5 years, which means it'll retire somewhere around May of 2024. You have plenty of time to study for this Security Plus version. If you're studying for the SY0-601 right now, this is the one you should be studying for. All you have to do is take the single exam and pass it. It is a 90-minute exam. You could get a maximum of 90 questions. You might get fewer than 90 questions. You never know until you sit down for the exam, but it's not going to be more than 90. On the exam, the scoring is on a scale from 100 to 900, and you have to take a 750. So that is your option. Unfortunately, the 501 exam is no longer available, if at least in the United States or in English-speaking countries. The 501 is no longer available. That is already retired. So your only choice right now is the 601. And is the 501 retire in other languages at the end of this year? I'll have to look. It's not normally the things that I have to worry about on this site anyway. There's lots to go through on this exam. You will get a lot of multiple choice questions. You'll also get performance-based questions. We'll talk about those performance-based questions in just a moment. Of course, I have lots of study materials available for you out on my website. Every one of my videos is available for you to watch online for free. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to register. You don't have to do anything along those lines. All you have to do is show up and watch the videos. It could not be easier than that. Many of you would like to have other materials to help you with this. So I do offer course notes, practice exams, an offline version of the videos, an MP3 version of the videos for audio, my exam hacks ebook. You have special access into this Q&A by getting a success bundle. All this is on my website. You can learn more about it at professormesser.com/601SB. There are also questions on my website. Take 10 questions. If you go to professormesser.com/take10, you can choose between A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus questions. And my Security Plus questions are not only multiple choice-based questions, but you will also find on my website performance-based questions for the 601. So let's do one. Let's do this very first one, the performance-based question number 1. And it asks which secure protocol should be used for these tasks. And it puts a lot of tasks up here, and you have to drag and drop these around. So I don't know what the answer is. I'm not reading. I'm just sort of giving you an idea of what you would do. And then once you finish, you can submit the answers and then find out, did you get any of them right? And turns out randomization gets you 1 out of 6. So there you go. I did pretty well with that one. You can find those all at professormesser.com/take10. Plenty, and we're adding new ones there all the time. I got some great ideas for some of those performance-based questions. You've also got a replay of this study group available immediately afterwards. In that replay is a video format on YouTube. There's also an audio format of the replay available in podcast form. You can find out about that at professormesser.com/podcast. You got plenty to look at there. A+, Network Plus, Security Plus study groups are all there on that link, and you can add them to your podcast listening program. If you do go out to YouTube to watch the replay, you'll notice that there are timestamps available on YouTube for everything that we do. All the questions, all the answers, everything that's there. My marketing manager, Lori, has to sit through this whole thing and put timestamps in. Hi, Lori. Everybody say hi to Lori. She is doing that right now, probably at 2x speed. so that it doesn't take as long as sitting here on the live stream. And she puts timestamps in for everything we do, which I think is great to have all of that there. Now, when we're not doing these live streams, make sure you check out our Discord. Go to professormesser.com/Discord, and you can join our live chat. I'm usually in there when we're not on the live stream. Obviously not in there right now, but you're welcome to join us. Go to professormesser.com/Discord or click the icon at the top right of the professormesser.com website. I'll also let you know that you should not be paying full price for vouchers. You can, of course, go to the CompTIA website. You can pay full price for vouchers there, and you're registered for your exam. But if you'd like to save a little bit of money, you can go to professormesser.com/vouchers and get a voucher to pay for it. It's like a coupon I can give you that you can take to that site to use to pay for your exam, and it won't cost you as much money. You can save a good bit of cash by visiting professormesser.com/vouchers. And if that isn't good enough, if you purchase a voucher on my website, I will give you a free copy of my Exam Hacks ebook. I got a message this week in my chat where someone said, I'm glad I read through the Exam Hacks ebook. I know that it gave me some extra points during my exam using some of these tips and tricks that you've compiled. It just comes for free. Go to professormesser.com/vouchers, and you can, of course, do that. And you'll notice some people in the chat room are mentioning, if you visit that link, there's a little link right at the top before you do anything on that page that says, if you are a student, you should go to this site instead. Students have a different pricing model. They can get cheaper, like 50% discount off vouchers. There is a link to the student side on that page, professormesser.com/vouchers. If you're not a student, you can keep going through all of those. Plenty to go through there. So let's talk about that question I asked earlier. Which of the following focuses on a user's control of their personal data? Would that be PCI DSS, a SIM, HIPAA, SOX, or GDPR? Let's see how you answered this one. You can see that 56% of you say it is the GDPR. 26% of you say it's HIPAA. We have 10% of you that say PCI DSS. You've got 6% that say SIM and 1% that said SOX. Well, if we're talking about privacy and your personal data and managing all of that, we're talking about the GDPR, the global, well, not global, but European requirement to keep people's information as private as possible. This is the General Data Protection Act in the EU. It spills over a little bit into other countries because we have so many of other countries are doing business in the EU, but it's a way that people can manage what websites do with their data. And although here in the U.S., we're not subject to the GDPR, if you were to send me a GDPR request, I try to, if possible, take care of those requests from users. Sometimes we have different regulations in the U.S. for finances, for tracking, but some of these are certainly available not only inside but outside the EU. GDPR is what we were looking for. It was not HIPAA. 25% of you say HIPAA. HIPAA is really focused on medical data, which certainly is personal, but it's not the focus. The focus is not personal data. The focus is medical information. For personal data, the best answer here would indeed be the GDPR. PCI DSS focuses on keeping financial information, specifically credit card numbers, private. A SIM is a consolidation tool, security information and event manager, more of a consolidation and reporting tool for log data. Doesn't really have anything to do with the user's personal data. And then SOX, another financial associated set of regulations that is focused on making sure that companies provide proper finance information. Again, has nothing to do with your personal data. The best answer is GDPR. If you answered E, 58% of you got that one absolutely right. Well done. That was a question from last month. If it looks familiar, that was our rewind question. So now going forward from this point on are all brand new questions. I write new questions every month. And the first new question of the month is a performance-based question. Performance-based questions are important because you will get a handful of these at the beginning of your exam. Most of you are familiar with the multiple choice questions. That's the one that we have here, where you get a question and there are multiple answers to choose from. Performance-based questions are a little bit different. They might be fill in the blank. They might be a matching question. You may have to drag and drop things on a page. You may have to put things in a particular order from highest to lowest, fastest to slowest. They can ask you questions. Now, all of the questions and the topics from the questions are coming directly from the exam objectives, but this is just a different way to ask some of these questions. So I have for you a performance-based question we're going to work through. For those of you that are here, the question asks, match the attacks. And I have 7 attacks, and I have 4 descriptions. So this is not going to be a one-to-one when we're looking through this. I have the 7 attacks and the 4 descriptions. So the 7 attacks are a rainbow table, physical, spyware, cryptographic, Trojan horse, logic bomb, and worm. So we've got lots to look at there as we step through all of these. I have 4 different descriptions that you should match 4 of those different attacks to. So you've got a door lock is jammed in a data center rack. Web sessions are using an outdated encryption protocol. A system unexpectedly restarts every Wednesday at noon. And lastly, a cryptocurrency mining program includes a remote desktop service. There are 4 attacks and their descriptions. Let me step through those again for those listening in on the podcast. We have a rainbow table, a physical attack, a spyware, cryptographic, Trojan horse, logic bomb, and a worm. The descriptions again are: a door lock is jammed in a data center rack. Web sessions are using an outdated encryption protocol. A system unexpectedly restarts every Wednesday at noon. And lastly, a cryptocurrency mining program includes a remote desktop service. Now, if you think these are already matched up, you can simply put online at this link, professormesser.com/QA, put 1A, 2B, 3C, and 4D, and you're done. Obviously, they are not matched that way. So online at professormesser.com/QA, put in what you think it is. You can just put in 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, or whatever you think they should be matched to. Obviously, there's going to be 3 attacks left over at the end because this is a one-to-one for these. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. You can't really find the one you don't know and kind of figure out the way that it works through there. I'll take A1, B2, C3, 4, D4, or whatever I just said. I'll take it the other way around. This is really for us to review once we get through this. And as always, of course, please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll figure out what all these are. While we're waiting, I want to scroll back because Josh in the chat room with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Josh, for that donation. Josh didn't even leave a message. Josh just said, here's some cash. Keep the lights on. And we absolutely will. It is very motivating to be able to keep everything going. So we do appreciate that support. Thank you, Josh, for adding that super chat to our live stream. We've got lots in here. Hi, Lee, in the chat room. Passed Security Plus last month. Congratulations as well. That's fantastic. It's always great to hear when people pass their Security Plus exam. This SY0-601 is a big exam. Lots of exam objectives, probably one of the biggest. So it's great to get through that one. It's always good to hear people that have managed to pass that exam. Log in your answer at professormesser.com/QA. I'm watching these answers come in on my side. Let me see if I can show my answers, see how people are doing. I think many of you have kind of figured out what these things might be. Some of you typed a lot of things in. But remember what you typed in. You'll notice when you submit your answer, it doesn't tell you what you submitted, so you might forget. Don't do that. We don't want that to happen. Let's step through each one of these and let's see how you did with this. Let's match these attacks. So we're matching attacks. We can start with our first one, which is a physical attack. A physical attack is going to match specifically to get all of these built out on my screen. A door lock is jammed in a data center rack. And I think there is a way to break out physical with that. So I kind of moved my attacks around. You can see the physical attack is there to have that piece there. Someone who is who's modifying an attack and trying to make things difficult for you to physically operate, that's obviously a physical attack. And somebody jamming a door lock in a data center rack and not allowing you access into that rack is certainly a physical attack. The next on our list, a cryptographic attack, fits with answer B, web sessions using an outdated encryption protocol. I kind of moved around my left side, not the right side, didn't I? But I think we can figure out what these are. The cryptographic web sessions using an outdated encryption protocol are very susceptible to an attack, especially because it's so obvious when it happens. There's a handshake that takes place between you and the web server. Anyone watching that handshake can see what encryption is being used. There are many different ways to ensure certain websites are secure. There are scanners available on the web that will check to see if you've configured your web server properly. And if you haven't, it will tell you that you have not configured that web server properly. Logic bomb, which was number 6, matches with a system unexpectedly restarts every Wednesday at noon. That certainly is logic bomb type material. Somebody has set up, usually based on a time or a date, but it can really be based on anything. When this thing occurs, when this logical event happens, perform this particular function. This one restarts a system every Wednesday at noon. So that's a little bit of a challenge. That's something that definitely fits into the logic bomb piece. And then lastly, Trojan Horse, a cryptocurrency mining program, includes a remote desktop service. You thought you were installing a cryptocurrency mining program. That's what you downloaded. That's what you installed. That's what it said it did. You installed this program, but somewhere hidden within it is a remote desktop service. Wait a second. Where did a remote desktop service come from? You don't need remote desktop for a cryptocurrency mining program. Suddenly now you install this cryptocurrency mining program and a third party is able to remote desktop into your system. That is a Trojan horse for sure. It snuck itself in with the Trojan horse and having that there. Cryptocurrency mining program. So we've got these others, the rainbow table, the spyware, and the worm that we did not use in our list. Rainbow tables are obviously used to be able to quickly find a password that might be associated with a hash. We know hashes are one-way events. We can't undo a hash to somehow figure out what a password or what that information was in the hash. But we can create a big table that already has the hashes inside of it, so we can quickly sort of reverse engineer how that hash was created to begin with. That would be a rainbow table. Spyware is malware that is either watching what you're doing or tracking things that you're doing. And then a worm is a virus that's able to hop between systems without any type of user intervention. So plenty to work through there. That's why with these, a physical would be a door jack jammed in a data center rack. A cryptographic attack is web sessions are using an outdated encryption protocol. A logic bomb attack is a system unexpectedly restarting every Wednesday at noon. And then a Trojan horse is when you've installed one program and, in fact, it's kind of snuck another thing in there with more. So that's where we got those different options. That might be a great way to look at this. This is a type of question you could get at the beginning of your exam in these performance-based questions. If you're planning to look into performance-based questions, we've got a year's worth of these. You can go back to all of our archives and look at all of our performance-based questions because there's a new one in every study group. So that might help you as well. I thought we did pretty well in that one. Let's now shift gears back to a multiple choice based question. Before we do that, CJ in the chat room with the £5 super chat. Thank you, CJ. CJ passed Network Plus last week. Congratulations on passing Network Plus. Another great certification to have in your pocket. Huge thanks to your free YouTube series. You're quite welcome. Do I sell Security Plus exam vouchers for UK students? I don't. Currently, my vouchers are only available in the United States, Canada, and U.S. territories. They are not available outside of that at the moment. There are some intricacies in logistics around providing that to other countries that I've not yet been able to negotiate. It's really more of there's money that's in another country, and then how do you manage that process? There's tax implications. There's logistic implications. It's a whole thing. But I've almost broken it. I've almost broken the code. There's things that I'm trying to do on my side to make it a little easier. So stay tuned. Maybe I can do that. How can you get the Exam Hacks ebook? Well, the only other way would be through the purchase of my Success Bundle, unfortunately. There's just no other way. I don't offer it in any other way. I need to think about finding another way to offer it for all of those. So we'll work through those details as we go through this. Let's do another question, though. I've got a multiple choice based question. We'll shift gears back to multiple choice. This question asks, a security administrator would like to view a summary of network conversations for the last 24 hours. Which of the following would provide this information? Would it be SFlow, Taxi, OWASP, HSM, or OSINT? A security administrator would like to view a summary of network conversations for the last 24 hours. Which of the following would provide this information? Would it be SFlow, Taxi, OWASP, HSM, or OSINT? If you think you know the answer, go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA and lock in your answer. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll have to figure out what this one is. A lot of different abbreviations and odd words in this one, but all of them are real things. They all come from the Security Plus exam objectives. In fact, if you see a word or abbreviation or acronym in here and you're not sure what it is, make a note. You need to go back and study a little bit more on what that one happens to be. So it may give you a little bit of a heads up as you step through these. That's my goal, is to give you as many terms that come directly from the exam objectives. Not to confuse you, but to really see if you know your stuff. If you're confused by it, I guess you don't know your stuff. I guess you have to kind of work through. See how that works for you. I've noticed my cache is building up for my live stream, so we could be having some type of problem. We know that there is some type of network issue going on. I appreciate the chat room telling me about this. Yep, I see it on my side as well. So obviously this is related to YouTube having some type of issue with the live stream because the network connection is still up. So we know that many of you who are working through this, here we go. So YouTube finally came back. I get to see it on my side. So that's why whenever I'm working through trying to figure all of this, hey, everybody, we are back. So I get to see it on my side. You can't really see it on yours, but I can monitor on my side. You can kind of see where this line is dipping down, and then it came back up. So I appreciate everybody in the chat room letting me know that we were having problems with that. It sounds like we worked through it, thankfully. Let's see if you can answer this question. A security administrator would like to view a summary of network conversations for the last 24 hours. Which of the following would provide this information? Would it be SFlow, Taxi, OWASP, HSM, OSINT? It's got to be one of those, right? Let's see how you did. The results are in. 50% of you, 50, say it's SFlow. We have a two-way tie for second. It's 16% apiece between Taxi and OWASP. We have 10% of you that said OSINT, and I'm going to say it's a tie for the 9% of you that said HSM. So we've got a number of options here. 50% that said SFlow. Well, you're pretty spot on with that. If you're a network person or you are working through some type of challenge with understanding how to monitor the network, then you've probably used NetFlow, SFlow. Going back in the day, the originator was Armon. So those technologies are incredibly useful for monitoring the network. SFlow stands for sampled flow. And although it's only getting a sample or a portion of the flow of traffic, it's able to really give you a pretty good understanding of what's on your network. Interestingly enough, there are very common things when you go through understanding pieces of the network that happen over and over and over again, and taking a sample basically gives you information on what those are. So that is exactly the correct answer, S-Flow for this. In fact, you probably have, if you're on an enterprise, your switches may have S-Flow capabilities, your firewall, your router, some of your other equipment may have S-Flow inside of it. These are specifically, this functionality specifically mentioned in the CompTIA exam objectives. So you should absolutely be familiar with it. Here's an example of what S-Flow might look like. I know I use SolarWinds for this, probably not the best thing to show for these, given the challenges that SolarWinds has had. But all of their S-Flow consoles are available as a demo online for free. So if you wanted to try out an S-Flow console, it's a great, easy way to work with it. So something you can play around with and see how it works right now by look at all the information you get from S-Flow. Just a huge, comprehensive top 10 interfaces by percentage utilization, interfaces by traffic, wireless clients by traffic, wireless access points by client count, current response times, tons of information there to be able to step through. S-Flow was really the only answer on here that had anything to do with looking at monitoring what's happening on the network over any amount of time. That is the right answer. If you chose S-Flow A, you got it absolutely correct. You have other options here as well. We had 15% of you that said OWASP. We had 14% that said taxi, 10% that said OSINT, and 8% that said HSM. The OWASP, a very common method of frameworks and understanding attack types and working through attack methodologies. You will see that often in the OWASP. We also have taxi, which is a standard way of sending traffic or sending alarm, alert, and vulnerability notifications between systems. Taxi is what does that, TXII. We got OSINT, open source intelligence. Would be if we were going out and trying to find information on somebody or something. That would not be what we would use for understanding network conversations. And HSM, hardware security modules, used primarily for storing sensitive information, specifically certificates, most commonly certificates. To have that there, HSM is the right answer. In this case, S-Flow is what we were looking for. S-Flow is absolutely a fantastic monitoring tool that provides information up and down the stack, can tell you a lot about applications, users on the network, IP addresses, conversations, tons of information that's available in S-Flow. If you answered A, the 52% of you got that absolutely right. Let's do another one. Let's do another multiple choice question. This question asks, which of the following would be the best choice for a preventive security control? Would it be a motion detector, backup tapes, IDS, hot site, or a firewall? Which of the following would be the best choice for a preventive security control? Would it be motion detector, backup tapes, IDS, a hot site, or a firewall? If you think you know the answer, please don't answer in the chat room. You want to go to the link that's on your screen, professormesser.com/QA. That's the one right there. And lock in your answer. Obviously, that link will only be available if you're watching live. If you're watching on the replay, just follow along with us. We'll get around to the answer in just a bit. These control types are pretty important to know. So this is one you have to think about. A preventive security control. It'd be best if you could read it. There you go. A preventive security control. Which one of those fits best into that? Is it an NGFW or normal firewall? I don't know that the answer in this particular case really matters. So I think you're fine either way in this scenario, which is why I didn't specify. I just said a firewall, which means it could be anything that you would associate with the word firewall. Same thing for IDS or hot site or backup tapes or motion detector or any of those others as well. There's nothing specific in there. We're really talking about security controls, which are a very broad description of a control. So I probably talked too much about that one. I probably went on and on a little too much about that. There was some questions earlier about S-Flow as to what layers S-Flow operates at, which is an odd question. It's an application, so it's an application layer conversation. Cisco does not call it S-Flow. They also call it S-Flow. NetFlow is different than S-Flow. NetFlow and S-Flow are two very different, well, I shouldn't say very different technologies. They come from the same place, but they operate differently. They gather information statistics differently. One of the things you'll find when you get into network monitoring and network troubleshooting is that there are many different ways kind of do similar things. But NetFlow and S-Flow are indeed very different in their operation. Do I have this? If something feels like a trick question, then in some cases, I guess it could be. I don't do trick questions. But if you have a question, it seems like a trick question, then it's probably the case that there's a piece of information you're missing. So that, I think, is the key, is to read through and kind of understand more about this. And this is one of those that really is focusing on a type of definition. And the question asks, which of the following would be the best choice for a preventive security control? Is it a motion detector, backup tapes, IDS, hot site, or firewall? Let's look at the results. We have 67% of you that say firewall. We say 15%, a tie at 15% between IDS and motion detector. You've got 3% that say backup tapes and 1% that say hot site. 66% saying firewall is pretty strong. Let's talk about these control types. The one we were specifically interested in, the one we were very much wanting to look at, is the preventive control type. This is one that will prevent access. In the previous set of exam objectives, they called this preventative. Technically the same word. Same type of function, but we kind of summarized it to preventive, which I think helps remember it better. You're preventing something from happening. So which of these would a door lock? That prevents somebody from entering a room. A security guard prevents you from getting into the building. A firewall prevents traffic from traversing the network. Stops things right there. So that is a good example of something that would be a preventive security control. A detective security control would identify or detect when something was happening, but would not necessarily be able to prevent it. So identifying and recording an intrusion such as a motion detector, that's certainly detective. It detects that something is happening, but a motion detector isn't going to stop anything. So it doesn't help you. Same thing for an IDS. An IDS will fire an alert off. It'll show you a message on the screen. It'll send you a page. It'll let you know that some bad guys on your network, but it won't actually stop them. It would only detect them. In fact, IDS, intrusion detection system, it's in the name of the product, is that it is detective and not preventive. So that's a pretty good example of those. We have other control types too. You may see control types like a corrective control type. Things where you can, once the damage is created, we can mitigate that damage. Things like a backup, for example. If someone infects a system with ransomware and they encrypt everything on the machine, well, you can just nuke it and restore from a backup. Problem solved, which is really what it would be. Backup site, same scenario. Your building is suddenly not available. There's no power. There's been a flood. You can't get into the building. We have a hot site available. We can correct this issue. We can mitigate this problem. We've got deterrent. Deterrent is a good example of being able to take a problem and find a way to discourage someone from doing what they're doing. Doesn't really prevent them from doing it, but it's something that might cause them to think twice before doing it. Something like a login banner that says, "We are watching you. Do not get into this system. We will convict you. We will prosecute to the strongest form." Warning signs, lights in a parking lot are a deterrent. Lights around your home are a deterrent. So that is a good example for for having something along those lines. We've got compensating control types, which doesn't actually prevent an attack, but might restore through other means. And then you have a physical control type, like locks on a door, fences. Now, notice some of these types of systems fit into multiple categories. That's perfectly reasonable as well. So that's why I wanted to take you through all of them to see things like a door lock is not only a physical control type, but it's also a preventive control type. So a door lock fits into both of those. Perfectly reasonable to do that. So another good example. In this case, we were looking for a preventive security control. I already gave away the answer. Firewalls certainly work as a preventive control. You create a firewall rule that says block all access of remote desktop. Block it. If you see remote desktop, you block it so nothing can go through. That's certainly preventing remote desktop from working. So firewall certainly fits into this. And you can see what these other options, IDS certainly identifies that a problem's occurring, but doesn't prevent anything. Not a great choice there. Motion detector, another one that can tell you that maybe somebody's walking through an area, but it won't stop them from walking through an area. Doesn't prevent anything. Backup tapes, a great way to mitigate an issue that occurs, but doesn't prevent the problem from occurring. And then you've got a hot site where you have an exact duplicate of your data center running. That doesn't prevent any type of security issue either. Doesn't prevent an attack, but it will help you get back up and running if an attack or something occurs where you're not able to be operating the way you would expect. That is answer E then. The only one that makes sense, the best choice, really the only choice in this list for a preventive security control is indeed E, firewall. 67% of you got that one absolutely correct. Well done. Well done with that one. That was a good question. If you don't know your security controls, make sure you go through that list. They're all listed in my SY0-601 course, section 5.1, under the video that is aptly named Security Controls. It's exactly where you want to be. There are so many different questions on this exam. People on the chat room were talking about this earlier, that there are lots of questions. Many questions on the exam are involved, where you have to really read through them and understand what's going on. I think if you are ever in a case where you're trying to, at least from my perspective, understand more about how this exam asks questions, this is a great resource for you. One of the things I found when I was looking at exam information on the internet is that there's not a lot of great practice questions out there. In fact, there's not very good practice questions out there at all. And I thought, we need better questions. We need questions that ask information that comes directly from the exam objectives. And we need questions that ask them in a way that's similar to the style or the voice that is used on the actual exam. So I created my own set of Security Plus practice exams. This is a book with 3 full 90-question practice exams in it, 380 pages long, multiple choice-based questions, performance-based questions. Let's just look at it to show you what it's like. This is a copy of the book. Let's do a question, everybody. This question, A12. Elizabeth, a security administrator, is concerned about the potential for data exfiltration using external storage drives. Which of the following would be the best way to prevent this method of data exfiltration? Would it be A, create an operating system security policy to prevent the use of removable media? Would it be B, monitor removable media usage in a host-based firewall log? C, only allow applications that do not use removable media? Or D, define a removable media block rule in the UTM? Now, this book is a PDF, so you can, of course, flip ahead. I'm on page 15. We can flip ahead to page 33 to get the quick answer, or flip ahead to page 49 to get the details. But since it's a PDF, what we can do is click what's on the page. So the details is right here. We have I'll click the details, and it will move me automatically to page 49, gives me another overview of the question, and then tells me that the answer is A, create an operating system security policy to prevent the use of removable media. And then I explain why I think that is the right answer. Now, if you're like me and you took this exam, you know that you're going to get things wrong on the exam. You know that you're going to get questions. One of the problems I have is a lot of these sample exams don't tell you why you got the question wrong. What I did in my book is for every wrong answer, I gave you the explanation of why it's a wrong answer. So not only do you, if you get it right, you get the validation that, yes, you knew the answer to this. If you got it wrong, you now are able to learn something. Now, even if you get it right, I really think you should read through the wrong answers as well. So I think this is really the one that makes the biggest difference to me. It's a learning opportunity with every single question. This is how you work through here. And at the very bottom of it, I give a QR code and a hot link that will take you to the video that the question is based on. So if you need even more information, it's right there in this book. With that link, takes you right to the website. This is my Security Plus Practice Exams book. You can find out more about this. Follow the link, professormesser.com/securitype. Or you can, of course, go to the Professor Messer website, grab that information on the website as well. professormesser.com/securitype. If you buy this bundled with my course notes, there's even a discount there. Some of you like the course notes. Some of you want the practice exams. You can buy them separately, but if you buy them together, there's a little bit of a discount. So another opportunity to save a little money on the website with the practice exams and the course notes. Let's do another question, shall we? Keep this going. Next question asks, which of the following would be categorized as passive footprinting? Would that be a port scan, OS fingerprinting, reading a forum, a ping scan, or a DNS query? Which of the following would be categorized as passive footprinting? Would it be port scan, OS fingerprinting, reading a forum, ping scan, or a DNS query? Can lock in your answer. Follow that link, professormesser.com/QA. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll figure that out. Yes, the practice exam book does include performance-based questions. 5 performance-based questions with each exam for a total of 15 performance-based questions. So that might get you a little bit more performance-based. I try to give you a lot of performance-based information. Performance-based questions in the live stream, performance-based questions in the book, in the practice exams book. But just so you're aware, the practice exams book contains questions you've never seen before. None of the questions in my practice exams book are in my live streams. They're not on my website. They're not part of my weekly study groups or my weekly pop quizzes. These are all brand new questions that have not been seen anywhere else. I write all of the questions in all of my books personally. So I know they are original questions that came out of my brain. So that's an example of where those questions come from. Sometimes people ask, well, who do you get to do the questions for you? I don't know. I don't know why you think there's other people writing these questions for me. It's me sitting in this room, sitting at this keyboard writing these questions. So I think that's probably the best way to get the questions asked. Someone who has some experience at understanding what might be asked. Let's see how you did with this question. It asks, which of the following would be categorized as passive footprinting? Are they a port scan, OS fingerprinting, reading a forum, ping scan, or a DNS query? Which one of these would it be? Let's see how you answered this question. 37% of you say that it's reading a forum. But notice we've effectively got a 4-way tie for second place. 18% said port scan, 17% said DNS query, 16% said ping scan, 13% said an OS fingerprinting. That's a lot going on there for all of these. So let's see what we think this might be. The real key here is the passive footprinting. That's what we're trying to figure out, is how can we approach passive footprinting with this. What we're trying to determine is how we can gather information from what's out there in the world, but do it in a way that nobody knows we're doing it. We want to be as passive in collecting the footprints that are out there as possible. So visiting a social media website, for example, the social media website knows that you were there, but the people with the social media website page don't know that you visited. They have no idea that you checked them out on social media. If you visit their corporate website, that's pretty passive. It's very unusual for somebody to look for people hitting a corporate website. How are you supposed to determine if the person hitting the corporate website is doing that to gather information or if they're doing that to learn more about the corporation? That's pretty passive. There's other options here, like going to online forums, going to Reddit, another great way to passively gather information. With social engineering, calling people on the phone and asking questions directly of them is another way. You can also maybe get information over email that way. Dumpster diving, that's pretty passive. If they're not watching their garbage cans, that would be a good way to do that. Then business organizations asking of other business of there. Now, I realize some of these, if the dumpster was right next to the building, if the dumpster was monitored by security, this would obviously not be passive. I'm giving you sort of a broad description of passive fingerprinting for this, but that is one that is very passive, generally speaking. So something like that is the best choice here anyway of the options that we have. The only thing here that's really passive, the only thing that even remotely is passive in this list is the one that 37% chose, reading a forum. Forums are usually on a third-party website. Maybe you're on Reddit. Maybe you're going through a different forum on a different site. But that's pretty passive. Nobody knows that you were there reading through that forum. Certainly the person you're planning to gather the information on has no idea that you gathered it by visiting that forum. The other options here are very active. Somebody watching the network, even somebody who had alarms and alerts set up in their next generation firewall or their IPS would really be able to see this. Something like a port scan, very active. You can see the port scan occurring on the packets. Same thing for OS fingerprinting, same thing for ping scan, and same thing for a DNS query in many cases, because ultimately it goes back to the authoritative DNS, and you can see someone performing that query. Now, there are tools you can get to do passive footprinting. I show an example of, for instance, some OSINT tools in the SY0-601 course where you have tools that will perform passive footprinting. So it's not really a tools, no tools scenario. There are passive fingerprinting tools available that you can gather information with. So plenty of tools that will do this for you. And if you're really trying to stay outside the visibility of the person that you're gathering information on, then you definitely want to consider doing passive footprinting. All of these other options are active. Port scanning, ping scanning, OS fingerprinting, and DNS queries are all active things that you would be doing against a company and their systems. Reading a forum, not against a company and their systems at all. So that would absolutely be that. What's interesting is the DNS query is active if you don't have anything cached already for that company. So the first time you perform the DNS query, it eventually has to get back to the authoritative server to be able to get the DNS information. So the first DNS query you do is going to be active every time, unless it's been cached by somebody else, I guess. But that's not really the best choice given these 5 options. The best choice, answer C, reading a forum. 39% of you got that one absolutely right. Let's do another one. Let's do another piece here. This is really a challenge. Here we go. A lot of moving parts. And this one is another kind of definitional question that asks, which of the following would be considered data at rest? Would it be data sent over an IPsec link? Would it be verification of a digital signature? Would it be password hashes stored in a SQL database? Would it be rendering a video file? Or would it be transfer of data to a backup site? Which of the following would be considered data at rest? Data sent over an IPsec link, verification of a digital signature, password hashes stored in a SQL database, rendering of a video file, and transfer of data to a backup site. So hopefully that can give you some options to mull over. If you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA. That's the link that's right there on your page, right there on the screen. Follow that link, and you will be able to answer this one, A, B, C, D, or E. Lock it in, your data at rest. That would be a good one. Let's see how we kind of break this one out. We'll do this one in just a bit. Kind of break out what these differences are in these. Data at rest is one of those terms you definitely need to know. And it is in the exam objectives. This is kind of a 501-601 question, isn't it? This kind of goes back to the older version. About half of the content of the 501 does appear in the 601. But the 601 is so big that there's so much new content inside of it. It's such a different exam. It's remarkable how much changed between versions. And that's why I tell people, do not study from 501 materials. Always study from materials that match the version of the exam that you're going to take. And if you're taking the 601, make sure all of your study materials say SY0-601. Do not use 501 materials. You'll be in big trouble when you walk into the exam. That is not something you want to do. Let's see how you did with this one. The question asks, which of the following would be considered data at rest? Would it be data sent over an IPsec link? Would it be verification of a digital signature? Would it be password hashes stored in a SQL database? Would it be rendering a video file? Or would it be transfer of data to a backup site? 83% of you, big one, says password hashes stored in a SQL database is data at rest. We have 14% of you that say transfer of data to a backup site is data at rest. And then you've got 1% and 0% saying rendering of a video file, verification of a digital signature, and data sent over an IPsec link is 1 or 0%. 84% is pretty strong. Should we just go with that for data at rest? The name of this kind of gives it away. Data at rest is data that's on a storage device. That's simple. Are you storing it on a hard drive? It's data at rest. Is it data stored on an SSD? It's data at rest. Is it data stored on a flash drive? That's data at rest. It's resting. It's like you open the door, there's the squirrel inside the refrigerator. He says, isn't this a Westinghouse? I'm Westing. That's what happens. It's the encrypting the data is... if you got data that's encrypted and you're storing it as encrypted data, it's being stored on that device as encrypted data. Data at rest. This is an important part of understanding the differences between data at rest, data in motion. This is a very good understanding because you can have attacks against the data in different places. This is where when I start looking at options for data at rest, it's always going to be in or on a storage device. And if we look at all of these, we've got 5 options here. The only one of these that talks about data on a storage device is the password hashes being stored in a SQL database. So it's not in motion. And things like data sent over an IPsec link is data in motion, data in use, both of those terms used for that. Transfer of data to a backup site, those are practically the same thing. A and E are almost identical to each other. Data in motion, data in use. That's a real challenge, the data in motion, data in transit. Data in use would be you're actually doing transactional data with this. It's in memory. You're performing a mathematical function. You're performing a logic check against this data. You're verifying a digital signature. You're rendering a video file. That's your data in use. You're actually using it at that point. That is whenever you're in the situation where you're trying to break out where the data is, it's important to know these states because different attacks will go against data that are in these different states. So make sure that you know the differences between all 3 of those and being able to work through all of those pieces. I think this is one where understanding the definition is one thing. Understanding how to apply that definition is something else. And a lot of the questions you get on your exam are applying some of these definitions. You have to know the application of them. This is a good example of that. Do we have time for another one? I know it's top of the hour. Let's get one more in, shall we? We'll get another one in here. This one asks the question, which of the following would be the best way to prevent loops on a layer 2 network? Would you use BPDU guard, STP, MAC filtering, DHCP snooping, or broadcast storm control? Which of the following would be the best way to prevent loops on a layer 2 network? Would it be BPDU guard, STP, MAC filtering, DHCP snooping, or broadcast storm control? If you think you know the answer, follow that link on your page, professormesser.com/QA, lock in your answer. Or if you're here on the replay, just hang out with us for a moment. We'll get to the question in just a moment. Be able to work through this one. See how we do with this. Preventing loops on a layer 2 network. Whenever I start going through the details of this gets to be a bit of a challenge. Really understanding what the options are. Each of these options, each of these answers are real things. So again, if you're reading through this and you're wondering, wait, what is that you said? That seems like you made it up. Didn't make it up. It's a real thing. So make a note of it. Go back to your exam objectives. Figure out where it is in the objectives. Go back to the video it came from or have a look at your study materials. Make sure you're familiar. You should be able to list out all 5 of these and know what all 5 of these should do for you. So this is where you should focus on these. Technically, are you looking at vendor features? No, you're not really looking at vendor features. We're very broadly describing the prevention of loops on a layer 2 network with this. If anything, it's more of a networking standard question. It's almost like a Network Plus question. So that would be a good one to work through. See how you do with this. Folks in the chat who've been mentioning, yeah, I think I saw this one on the Network Plus. I think I just released a video today that talks about this very thing in the Network Plus questions. So definitely where you should go with this. Let's see how we do with this one. I'll let a few more people lock in your answer. Go to professormesser.com/QA, lock that answer in. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. Figuring out how to prevent a loop on a layer 2 network. If only everyone would be able to do that. That would be really useful if everyone knew how to prevent a loop on their layer 2 network. Maybe solve a lot of problems in the world. Let's see how we did with this one. Which of the following would be the best way to prevent loops on a layer 2 network? And best really is an appropriate use here. Would it be a BPDU guard, STP, MAC filtering, DHCP snooping, or broadcast storm control? It's got to be one of those, right? Let's see the results. 49% of you say it's STP. I think we'll give you the extra point and say half. So half of you say STP is the right answer. We've got 20% of you that said MAC filtering. We've got 15% that said BPDU guard. We've also got 12% that said broadcast storm control, practically a tie there for those two pieces. And then the last one, 3%, only a single digit for DHCP snooping. And if we look at loop protection on a layer 2 network, the real key, here we go. Loop protection. If you connect 2 switches to each other, you can kind of extend your network from one side to the other. The problem at layer 2, the MAC address layer, is that if you connect them in a loop, they'll go back and forth between each other forever. There's no loop mechanism, there's no loop detection mechanism built into layer 2. So that's a real problem. It'll bring down your network really quick, and the network will stay down because there's no way for that network to get rid of the old looping frames. They'll just keep going around and around and around and around forever. Fortunately, there is a standard that you can enable on a switch that will prevent these loops from occurring. This standard is, we don't really call it the 802.1d, but that's what it is. It's the Spanning Tree Protocol, or STP. Spanning Tree Protocol is perfect example of what you should be implementing on your layer 2 network to prevent loops like this from occurring. What it will do is whenever you plug in that extra connection that makes the loop, before it will send any information across that link, it performs a series of checks to see if a loop would exist. And if a loop does exist, it prevents that system from connecting to your network. So the loop never happens. In fact, you plug in, you're like, why is this not working? Why is this? Oh, because it would have created a loop. You'll get messages on the screen. There will be alarms and alerts that a spanning tree has detected a situation with a loop. Hopefully, you've set something like that up. This loop protection is incredibly important on layer 2 because, as I mentioned, there's no other way to do it than having something to look out for these types of problems and prevent them before they happen. Spanning tree protocol is what you would use. Answer B was the right answer. 20% of you said MAC filtering. Unfortunately, you don't know who's going to be sending information over a looped network before it happens. Otherwise, you could filter out, I guess, if you knew where the loop was going to be and you knew what MAC addresses were going to communicate over that loop, you could stop them. But that is a level of visibility into the future that you don't have. So MAC filtering is not going to help you at all because you would have to know it happened. And by the time you know it happened, it's already happened. Not going to help you. We've got 15% of you said BPDU guard, which is great for preventing someone from sending the bridge protocol data unit frames from their workstation, which should never happen. But it doesn't help you, or in this case, best way prevent you from creating a loop on a layer 2 network. We've got 12% that said broadcast storm control. Broadcast storms, of course, something you should control, but it doesn't help you prevent loops. And then lastly, DHCP snooping, a great way for your switch to identify legitimate DHCP servers and block non-legitimate DHCP servers or rogue DHCP servers, but doesn't help you prevent loops. That's why only 3% of you answered D. The answer, the spanning tree protocol, or as the chat room is mentioning, there's other options for spanning tree. The rapid spanning tree protocol is a good example, but we generally even just refer to that as STP, generally speaking. Since if you're using spanning tree on a modern network, you're probably using the remote spanning tree protocol or the rapid spanning tree protocol instead of just spanning tree. Spanning tree, if you ever use it, you plug in a system, you're sitting there for 20 or 30 seconds waiting for spanning tree to run its checks, to make sure there's no loops, and then finally get you access to the network. The rapid spanning tree protocol, you plug in, seconds later you're working on the network. So you've got some options to work through that. The right answer, though, in this case, spanning tree protocol, that's what we were looking for. That is the right answer. That's the one you should be using. That's the one that gives you that coverage of your layer 2 network so that you can prevent any loops from occurring. All of the information from this study group came directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. If you don't have these objectives, you are doing yourself a significant disservice. Everything you need to know about this exam is in these exam objectives, and they're free. You really can't beat that. There's a link to these objectives on my site at professormesser.com/objectives, or simply go to the Google machine and type in CompTIA exam objectives, and it will take you right to the page. Give them some information. They'll give you a copy of the exam objectives. A great way to verify that you've studied everything for your exam. This is a great checklist before you go into the exam to know that you've covered everything you need to know. And it will tell you because they stay very close to these objectives on the exam. I do one of these study groups every month for Security Plus. I also do 2A Plus study groups, a Network Plus study group. Maybe we'll do another one here in the future someday. But I've got 4 more scheduled for December. Our December schedule a little bit different than what we would normally do, primarily because there's just a lot of holiday dates inside of December. So you can, of course, go there and have a look at on the 7th and the 9th of December are my A Plus study groups. My Network Plus study group is on the 14th, and my Security Plus study group, the last one of the year, is on the 16th of December. We would love for you to come back on December 16th and join us again for another live stream. Of course, you can join us on the 7th, the 9th, and the 14th as well. We'd love to have you here for that. Come on back for those. And, of course, you can always check the calendar at professormesser.com/calendar. Also, don't forget, we've got my course notes available. If you haven't seen my course notes before, everything that is in my videos, all of the text, all of the graphics that are important to know about, all of the charts, everything I create are in these course notes. They are extensive to be able to provide this. 120 pages, the biggest I've ever done, because this is the biggest exam that I've ever done to have all of this there. Plenty inside of the course notes to pull from. This is extensive information and a great way to kind of have everything at a glance and available. If you're also following these videos and collecting continuing education unit credit, I would like to, of course, provide you with an email confirming that you were here, but you have to follow these instructions. Go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, click the Contact Us link. In that Contact Us link, put your email address, put your name, put in the subject line that this is the November 2021 Security Plus Study Group, and then put the super secret code word of the month, MAC filtering. MAC filtering is our super secret code word of the month. Kind of move things around on you there. Put that in. You can, of course, put that on a line by itself in the body of the message. And then if you'd like to put anything else in the message, you're more than welcome to. I read through all of these so that we can step through all of the pieces of this. It's a great way to earn some CEUs. You obviously need, what do you need? 50 CEUs for Security Plus. You can get 10 of those, I think, by watching study groups. The other 40 you're going to have to get somewhere else. So that might help you as well as you go through this. I think that's another great way to get the CEUs you need if you're one that's collecting CEUs anyway. We've got plenty to go through. We're not done yet. There's an after show. So thank you for being here on the main part of the study group. I kind of think the main part is the next part, though, where you get to ask me questions. So we've got the chat room open. We'll ask questions in just a moment. In the meantime, don't forget about the weekly Security Plus pop quiz. It's available on Twitter at professormesser.com/Twitter. It's on Instagram at professormesser.com/Instagram. And if you liked the questions and you learned something today, we'd love it if you hit the thumbs up button on this video. It's another great way to support what we're doing. Don't forget about your discount vouchers and exam hacks ebook for you folks in North America and Canada. On professormesser.com/vouchers. And we've got, of course, more on our website with course notes, practice exams, and so much more that can help you at professormesser.com/securitycn. Thanks for joining us in this first hour. Stick around. We'll take questions from the chat room. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you next time on the Security Plus Study Group. All right. Take camera one. Get rid of graphic. Hi, everybody. It's time for the after show. Now, in the after show, I take questions, well, about practically anything that you would like to ask about. We've got plenty of folks in the chat room. You're either on the chat room on professormesser.com/live. You might also be in the chat on YouTube. From my perspective, it's the same chat, so you can't go wrong. You simply put your questions into that chat room, and I will be glad to answer them. Put the link up. That's not the link to the website. That's the link to the website. If you're not there already, get you there. Obviously, we can only do this when we're working through the live part of the study group, but you're more than welcome to ask questions in the live stream and be able to work through these. There were some questions also that came in near the end there. One that came from Kevin. Question asked, does the SY0-601 Security Plus require knowledge from Network Plus? This is a pretty common question, Kevin, because a lot of people start with Security Plus because they're trying to work towards a job where that's a requirement, and the job that they're working towards doesn't need Network Plus, doesn't need A+. So instead of doing A+ or Network Plus, you're sort of leapfrogged over both of those And now you're doing Security Plus. A lot of people are worried, do I need to kind of backtrack? Is there a huge amount of data in Network Plus that I really need to know? And the answer is no. You can start with Security Plus. Everything you need to know is in Security Plus, and you're covered. There are networking components and things that are covered in Network Plus that are also covered in Security Plus, but it's already in there. It's already in the Security Plus piece, so you don't have to worry about that. Have a look at the exam objectives. That's everything you need to know, and none of it requires some type of knowledge brought over from the Network Plus side. In fact, there's relatively little networking information in Security Plus. There's like that much, and everything else is all security related. So don't worry about having to shift gears or go back and study. You don't have to do any of that. Just keep going through the the Security Plus exam objectives, and you're fine. You're really focused. You got everything you need from there, and doing all those pieces. Let's see what else we got here. How much security is covered in Network Plus? Well, a little bit. If you look through the Network Plus exam objectives, they kind of give you an overview of some of the security types. There's a little, like, you have to learn what is a brute force attack, what are password attacks, what is a denial of service. Some of that is in all of these exams, but there's not a ton of it. So you do get a little bit. If you've already been through Network Plus, you have like one part of one section of one domain that you now have knowledge on. Now you just have to study all of the other exam objectives, which are extensive, to be able to do that. A real key. Other questions in the chat room. Did I watch the T20? No, I did not. I have been heads down with Network Plus. In fact, this morning, I released the last video for the new Network Plus exam. So I haven't even been following the news on anything with cricket or anything else. It's been a challenge. I'm kind of happy I can pull myself out of the depths of that. So maybe I can catch up, maybe go look at some of the information that's been put out over the last few weeks, kind of catch up what's been going on. I really am in here in the studio from first thing in the morning till last thing at night. So it's just me and these screens most of the time. And because I'm creating content, I can't really turn on music or some other video. That I'm busy creating my own video. So it's an odd, for people that create content, they don't have a chance to pull media in from other places. If you're creating the content, it's your content that you're watching. So it's one of those weird things where I kind of lose track of what's happening in the world. Sports just immediately goes to the side. It's difficult to become a fan of anything because you're always creating the content, which I guess that's not bad. That's my choice. I'm glad I got the courses done. But now maybe I can go back and at least look at some highlights. Would be nice. And have that. I need to study Network Plus, learn more about ARP requests, the ARP protocol, DNS servers, and I think that's always a good idea. I think if you're going through exam content and there's a portion of that exam content that you would really like to get more details on, it's kind of pulling you in. You want to learn more about what is that? How does it work? Where do I find it? I think we should always be asking those questions of ourselves, because I really think it helps you learn a broader understanding of what's going on behind the scenes. I could take any of my videos, and as you know, you've stepped through my Security Plus videos. These Security Plus videos are in some cases 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long, 15 minutes long. Many of these topics I could grab and we could talk about for a day, certainly for hours. But now I could talk about many of these for an entire day. And often we have. Previous jobs that I've had as a systems engineer, we would go into a training class and talk about one set of topics for hours and really dive into it, understand it, learn how to implement it, do some testing with it, set it up in a lab, break it, fix it, upgrade it, see how it changes. You can take any of these topics and really start grinding away at the details of it. And if that interests you, I highly recommend you do that. I think it's great to be able to take the ideas that you're learning and then start to see them in a different perspective. If anything, I think it helps you remember them a lot better. That's going to be a real key for Security Plus because there's so many topics that you would have to pour through. So make sure that you really understand the specifics of these. And if you have an inkling of, gosh, that ARP is interesting, what's really going on with that? Why don't you do a packet capture? Do a packet capture and see the packet capture of the ARP going back and forth. Watch the ARP request. Look at the ARP response. What was sent in the ARP request? It doesn't have the MAC, so what does it put in place of the MAC address in the request? Oh, look, in the response, it added the MAC address as part of the response. You can actually see it happening as it's going over the network. So I think having a great knowledge and understanding of what's happening at the packet level can only help you in networking, in operating systems, in security, really in anything IT. I also think it helps you understand the topics for these types of exams. I don't do in my videos a ton of breakouts that way. I'm focusing on giving you exactly what you need to pass the exam. And there's a benefit to that really I'm focusing on giving you not too much, not too little, but just the right amount. But I think it's always good if you expand that out a little bit. If you've got the time and the interest and you have an ability to do those things, why not? I think it's a great idea. I think it's a perfect idea. Another question in the chat room. I'm about to do Security Plus. I haven't gotten any type of work in networking or cybersecurity. Is this really what I should be doing? Is it unwise to do Security Plus? Well, one of the things that I think that's important is that you're getting this certification for a reason. Now, if you're trying to get a job in security, it would be unusual just to say, I know, I'll go get a security certification without any knowledge of what that security certification might do for you. It'd be probably more focused, more directed if you started on the other side of this. If you're interested in a job in security, go find out what the security jobs are asking for. That's a great place to start because the hiring managers have an idea of what you need to know. So let's ask them. And the best way to ask them is to find out what they're putting in these job descriptions. So go find the job openings in your area around security and see what they're asking for. Do they want knowledge in operating systems? Do they want knowledge in networking? Do they want knowledge in security itself? You may have to start down at a lower level. Maybe first start with understanding operating systems, understanding how Windows operates, understanding the security mechanisms in Windows. Now do the same thing for Linux. Now do the same thing for Mac OS. There's a whole world of years of your life that can be spent working in those operating systems. Now do the same thing on a network. Network security, understanding the packets going across the network, knowing what to look at in the packet captures, really understand the details of what's in that packet capture, and understand how to set things up with switches, routers, security on switches, security on routers, and maybe even security on firewalls to some degree. Then, once you have a strong foundation in operating systems, a strong foundation in networking, then most employers want to get you for a security role, an entry-level security role, and I think that's where Security Plus best fits. Now, I will tell you the difference in this depends on the jobs that are out there. For example, if you are wanting to get a job with a company that does a lot with the U.S. federal government, one of their requirements is almost always for you to have your Security Plus certification. In their world, that is entry level. So they don't care if you have A+, they don't care if you have Network Plus or any of that knowledge. They want you to have Security Plus to be able to even qualify for the jobs they want to put you in. So I will tell you that the answer to your question about going Security Plus, is this a good idea or a bad idea? I don't know, because in your part of the world where you happen to be and the jobs that are available to you, employers may want that. Or employers may not want that, which is why I always tell people, always, always, always start with the job description. Find the jobs you think you're qualified for. Find out what they would like of you. You may find in your area, everybody wants Network Plus. Everybody wants A+. Everybody wants a Microsoft cert. Everybody wants an AWS cert. Everybody wants some other certification. So find out what employers want. If you're looking for a job or a better job, that's what you should do. Now, if you aren't looking for a job, you're not looking for a better job, you're just interested in security, well, that's different. But I think the vast majority of people that are on my site, that are on these live streams, that are working on certifications, are working to get a job or get a better job. So my focus is providing you with that perspective. I think that's one that I think really depends on what you're trying to do. Everybody has a different set of goals. Figure out your goals, figure out the jobs in your area. And as I mentioned in my video of how to get a job in IT with no experience, there's a link in the video description. Follow the instructions in that video where I tell you, pull up a spreadsheet. For the spreadsheet, put all of this information in for every job. Really do your research so that you can look at that spreadsheet and realize, wow, everybody wants me to have A+. So there you go. You should go get your A+. Or you look at it and go, wow, everybody wants me to have Security Plus. Okay, now you know what direction you should be going. There should be a reason you're putting yourself through this. if you want to look at it that way. Maybe I'm really internalizing this too much. I like the topics in security. I did it as a career, as a security systems engineer. I loved it. So I know you will too, but you can't simply start generally on the security side. Normally there is a set of ramps. You have to start at the bottom, kind of work your way up. So having a conversation in my chat room last night with someone around that very thing, where they were saying, I've got my A+, my Network Plus, my Security Plus. I'm working on this on the CCNA and one other higher level cert. I'm like, wow, is there another job you're looking for? And they say, I don't even have a job. I'm not even in IT yet. So I said, well, maybe you're putting a lot of stuff in your list, but an entry-level hiring manager probably doesn't want to hire somebody with a CCNA. You could potentially be overqualifying yourself. Can you imagine a hiring manager looking at someone who has all these certs and they're thinking, there's no way I'm going to put them on the help desk. They are going to be bored out of their mind. They'll quit in a month, and then I'm back to where I started. So this job is not a good fit for them. And the problem is an entry-level job probably is a good fit for them, but they've now got so much that they're qualifying themselves with that somebody could potentially consider them overqualified. It's a real thing. So you kind of have to match your resume to the posting for the job. I always tell people that you should always customize your resume. You should always have a cover letter. It should always be customized for the job you're applying to. And I get arguments with that. I get people telling me, no, why would I do that? Well, you do that because nobody else is doing that. That's why you do it. This is a competition. This is not, I'm kind of reversing things. This is a competition. This is not an exhibition. You should not expect someone to read your resume. They don't. Let me tell you, they don't. So many times I've gone into an interview for a job that pays 6 figures. I've sat down and they've got 4 or 5 people that are sort of coming in one after the other to talk to me. When they walk in, they're given the resume. This is James. Here's his resume. Okay. That's their first time seeing it. They kind of look through it. They see what's in the top of the first page of my 2-page resume, and that's it. They throw it down. Okay, well, tell me about yourself. It's up to you then to explain to them everything in that resume that fits with the job that you're applying for. That's incredibly important. So I think that people overthink the resume. We spend so much time creating it, parsing it, having other people look at it, making sure we have the right content in it, that we just assume everybody else is going to want to read this. Guess what? Nobody reads this. Nobody reads that resume. We spend so much time on it. You have to make sure it's good. You have to go through that process, but you should always assume that nobody's going to see it. That's why cover letters are so important. Customized cover letters are so important. That's why customized resumes are so important. This is a competition. You have to be better than everyone else who's applying for this job. And the only way to do that is be better than them. It seems like an obvious one, and I don't understand why a lot of people will argue with the idea of being better than everyone else applying to this job. Oh, well, if they don't want to read my resume, I don't want to work for them. Well, you just made it very easy for everybody else who's applying for this job. Thank you. That's one you have to think about. You should always assume that nobody's going to read through this content. You should always be ready to talk to someone about why you think you're the best fit for this position. And if you haven't gone through the process of reading their job posting, stepping through the requirements, oh, I saw in the job posting, you really needed somebody with Office 365. Well, let me tell you all the stuff I've done with that. Oh, I saw in the job posting you wanted somebody who's very knowledgeable with AWS. Let me tell you all the stuff I've done with AWS. That's the give and take you're looking for, because then they don't even have to look at your resume. They can just have a conversation with you. Those are the best kind of interviews, by the way, when they don't even look at the resume. Tell me about yourself. Well, then it's you. It's you telling them. What could be better? It's almost better. Am I saying this? It's almost better they not even read the resume. You got in the room. It's now up to you to make that happen. So I think that's the key, is really focusing on where you should focus your efforts and how you should communicate those efforts to someone else. There's a lot involved here, isn't it? It's almost like you're in a marketing role. It's more than IT. You have to be a storyteller to be able to get the job. Now, I will tell you, in IT, some of the best and most highly paid jobs are effectively for storytellers, for someone who can take this very technical thing that you're working on and somehow explain it to someone else in a way that makes sense. If you're going to be a systems engineer, that's a huge part of your job. If you're going to be in a technical marketing role, that's definitely your job. I worked in a position as a technical marketing director where I would just get on a plane, I would fly to a city, I would go to a conference or some type of trade show or a customer. I would present information about our company and why we think our product is so awesome. I would leave the building, get on another plane, and go to another city and do it again. That was a job. That was a real job. And they paid really well for me to do that. I'm a storyteller. But you have to understand the technology underneath to be able to build the story. So that's kind of the important part to consider. I know that was sort of a long and involved, divergent answer to that question, but I know. Even today, I tell myself, that was a real job. They paid me for that. They paid me to get on a plane and go talk to people. Okay. I was not arguing. I was simply doing that. And they were fine with me doing it. So I was fine doing that. It's weird when you get into those types of roles, though. We would go to training as a systems engineer, and this was systems engineer for network management companies, security companies. Anytime I worked as a systems engineer, we would do extensive training. We would all fly out to a city, all the systems engineers from all over the world. We would go to this city for a week, and they would just sit us in a room from the morning to the evening, telling us about what we needed to know. What was interesting about this is sometimes these were very technical training that we were doing. We were learning about the protocols. We were learning about the security mechanisms. We were learning about the underlying operation of a particular product. And those were really interesting trainings in and of themselves. If you're a technical person, technical training is it's a lot of fun, and there's labs and you're chatting with other people who are very knowledgeable. It's a great experience. There was some training we would do where it was more about how to speak to people, Where do you hold your arms when you are standing on a stage and talking to people? You ever see people, they're holding their hands sort of at their waist? I don't know. It's like they're setting a pick in a basketball game. Like, why are you somebody about to run into you? Is somebody about to hit you? What's going on? But it's sort of it's a protective thing. They're kind of hiding themselves from the audience. There's a whole psychology behind this. But you put your arms at your side. Just put it, because that's where you would normally put your arms, right at your side. And it feels weird to simply stand in front of people and put your arms at your side. It feels kind of weird. But if you look at a video of you doing that, it looks perfectly normal. It looks weird if you put your hands behind your back or in front of you, or you're holding something or you're fiddling with it. So we would have training that, even though we were technical representatives of this company and we had a lot of technical knowledge about how networks operate, about how the product operates, how to troubleshoot, how to engineer, how to design, how to implement, we also had training we went to on how to talk to people. And I think knowledge of how to talk to people is probably one of the most powerful skills in IT. It is. So I agree with the chat room that more companies should offer that kind of training. The one I went to, I don't even know if they exist anymore. Let's see if they do. Is presentation skills training from Decker. Decker was the one I took. Decker Communications. And indeed, Decker still exists. There they are. And it was those types of training. There they are. All the companies that do some Decker training. Big names. And they really have a nice breakthrough. But it doesn't have to be that single company. It could be anybody that does that type of thing, where they give you a topic, you stand in front of a room, they record you, and then you look at it afterwards and they give you feedback. Just one day of that can be very, very powerful stuff. I can't say there's a book I can recommend for that, because I never really referred to a book. They sent us to very expensive training for that. There are a number of really good books out there that can help with those things. And I've looked through a few, but none come to mind immediately. A lot of the books I read around those things are more like business success books. The Power of Wow. Those types of books are good ones, because they give you a perspective of different ways to approach these problems, and how to read a room, how to work with people, how to handle difficult situations with people, emotional situations. When somebody's you represent a product and that product is not working the way that a customer needs it to work. Maybe there's a bug, maybe it's implemented incorrectly, maybe it's a bad configuration. People get emotional, and you almost have to become a psychologist. You have to become a sounding board for someone who's having these problems, and they just want to rah, 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 and like, yep, I'm with you. I've been there. I've been the customer in that situation. So I have a huge amount of empathy for what they're doing and what they're going through. And it's never personal, and you're the one who can help. So you're in a great position. You're enabled. Like, okay, I don't know what your problem is. I don't know what's causing this, but we can figure it out, and here's what we're going to do. The way you handle problems is almost more important than solving the problem. And they don't really tell you that in IT. They're all about, did you solve it quickly? Did you close the ticket? Can we keep moving? They always talk about just keep moving. Did we close it? Did we close it? Did we close it? Is it done? Is it done? Is it done? It's a problem. There was something great I was reading this week. I should have made a clip just for the study group. And it was talking about the measurement of things. You're measuring. So I'm sure many of you have taken your car in to get it fixed. When you're done getting your car repaired, they send you a survey. In the survey, how well do we do? 1 star to 5 star. And you have to fill out the survey. In fact, you are talked to by the people at the car company, and they tell you you're going to get a survey, is there anything that would prevent you from answering 5 stars? That's the question they ask. And if you say, yeah, I'd probably give you a 4-star. Let me see what I can do right now to fix that right now, so that when you walk out of this room, you're saying we can give you a 5-star. Or you tell them, yeah, I'll give you a 5-star, because they get compensated on the results of a survey. And the thing I was reading, I wish I'd written down, somebody smart in the chat room will probably have the name of the process around this, of the paper that was written around this, that when you start creating a result based on a measurement, you've completely lost the ability to properly measure it. Because if you're having somebody prompt you for a 5-star review every time, the results of the survey are worthless. It's an absolutely worthless measurement. But they have changed it. Instead of using that as a measure, they're using it as a carrot and a stick. And as soon as you use it as a carrot or a stick, it's worthless measurement. It is suddenly not usable. They must have fantastic numbers. Look at our 5-star reviews. They are extensive. We are doing so well. Does anybody anywhere who has ever taken their car to any dealership ever thought the car company was 5-star? They were in the chat room, call it Goodhart's Law. See, my chat room, smart people. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure, which technically is not what Goodhart said, but that's what we decide that Goodhart said. It was actually, that summary of Goodhart's Law was written by someone else, which I'm sure Colin will tell me who that was that wrote that. But I think it's a great summary of Goodhart's Law, that when the measure is the target, it ceases to be a good measure. And that's sort of the problem that you run into in IT, in car dealerships, and you see it all the time. So you do have to be careful about those things. It does become a little bit of an issue. But for what you are concentrating on, concentrate on knowing the topics, concentrate on creating the good resume, concentrate on telling people about what you know that they need, and the interviews go so much better. Yes. Yeah, the same thing. People are even mentioning, yeah, what about these reviews of a restaurant, reviews of a hotel, reviews of your car dealership? They're all worthless. The review part is worthless. You know, somebody's getting a bonus based on you putting a larger number into that slot. So it's not worthless to them, but it's worthless as a measurement tool. Measurement tools are a challenge in themselves. And then you mess them all up by tacking on some type of target to them. Why would you do that? I was mentioning the reason I got to that point is I was talking to somebody about technical support. In technical support, one of your primary objective, I would say for most places, their primary metric is how quickly did you solve the problem, and was the problem solved on the first call? And people get compensated for these numbers. And of course, as soon as you start compensating, as soon as it becomes a target, it becomes a worthless measurement. I was working on the customer side. I wasn't a systems engineer at this point. I was working on the customer side, and I was visiting a company that was a startup. They were a startup that were making this new technology called a network switch. So obviously, this dates me a little bit. It's a company called Xylan. And I was working at the time as a value-added reseller. We were looking to sell Xylan, or maybe I was the end user at that point, looking to implement Xylan's products. This is before they had switching, networking components before anybody else. They were the leader in the industry for switching. And we went to visit their headquarters. And I got to talk to their tech support people. And we were talking, Xylan, X-Y-L-A-N, Xylan. So we were talking with them, and he says, well, I only have one metric that I follow, are you happy? Is the person who called in with the problem, did we solve the problem and are they happy? You know, I'm not counting. How long did it take? I don't care. Did we fix on the first call? Doesn't matter. The only thing that happens, the only thing that matters is the person that called with the problem. Are they happy? I thought that I could tell you're a startup because you're not putting any type of objective on these numbers. And in fact, your requirement, the ultimate disposition for these technical support calls are you happy? When's the last time you heard that from a technical company? You know, as soon as you become a public company and people are involved and there's a lot at stake, suddenly a lot of managers get in, then they have to set up the rules, and now there's an amount of time you are on the phone, and it's pointless. Every support organization should have that as their only measure. Is the customer happy? That's it. I mean, isn't that why you exist? Isn't that why technical support's there? Because I don't care how many times you solve the problem on the first call. I don't care if you fix it on the first call or second call or third call. All I care is did we get it fixed? Do we have a plan? Did the plan work? Is the problem fixed? Am I happy? So I thought that was a unique perspective, and often you will find these unique perspectives. In one of the books I was referring to earlier, which let me find the specific one. The one that I was working through, and I probably have the actual physical book of this. I will find it in. You would think it'd be easy to find some of these books in the Google. It's not as easy as you would think. But I like reading through business books that talk about how companies that would be a normal sort of company thing, that would just be it's a company, they're a printing company, they're a plumber, they take care of people's cars. You know, these companies that you would think it would just be a normal thing, but they take the idea and they twist it just a little bit to make it better for the people, better for the consumer, better for the people doing this. So that was really one of the very interesting takeaways from that particular visit to Xylan at the time. And of course, Xylan became very successful. They sold a lot of switches. They were the leader in the industry, and then they got bought. Who bought them? I don't even remember. Wasn't Cisco. Cisco bought their own switching technology from someone else. It might have been Alcatel, or it might have been whoever was bought by Alcatel prior to that. You know, we're talking a long time ago. This was a very long time ago. So I don't recall exactly where this was, but there was a lot going on along those lines. 1999, Alcatel bought them, huh? That's good for them, because that was they were hot. They were hot. They had a great switch. And then once any company gets bought, especially a company getting bought by a public company, everything changes. Anytime a company goes public, anytime a company is bought by a public company, everything changes. So, of course, the name Xylan and even Alcatel to some point, you know, you don't think of Alcatel. What type of switches should we put in? Let's put in those Alcatel switches. Nobody says that. So that's one of those situations where you get bought, and are you selling? You're just selling for the money at that point, which that's not a problem. Good for you. Good for you. You built a company. It's big. Somebody else wants to buy it. It's the circle of life. In the corporate world, that's the circle of life for those. And in the chat room, BM with the $5 super chat. Thank you for that. So appreciative of the super chats that we get. BM writes, passed my 601 Saturday. Congratulations. 601, as I mentioned, big exam. So anytime anyone passes that one, that was a lot of work. So congratulations. Thanks for doing what you do. Can you shout out the cyber dweebs? No, I cannot. Wait, I just did. The cyber dweebs. We did a shout out for $5. Yeah, I'll shout out the cyber dweebs. If I had a flag, I'd wave it. I don't, but I appreciate that. I appreciate the super chat. Congratulations on the 601, and of course on ABC Tuesday nights, cyber dweebs. I don't know what that is, but there's the shout out. Hopefully, it's not something bad. That's the challenge of shouting out anything on a live stream. It didn't sound bad. We'll have to see. Working as legal assistant, IT support, small law office. Love the flexibility and plenty to learn at a law office. Always find law fascinating. There's always a good story. Talk about good stories. Law offices, anything in legal are good stories. But need more money. I feel you. What is a good IT-focused side hustle? There's lots of them. Now, there's certainly places online where you can do things online that are IT related and earn extra money. It could be building websites. It could be advertising for small businesses in your area. You know, it's one of the things I think people don't think enough about. I think there's a huge opportunity for small business support in technology. Someone who's good with SEO, someone who's good with advertising, that would be great. Someone who's good with website management, design, support, and not just build a website and here's your website, but as I mentioned, looking at it in a different way. What if you were able to take all of these things and make them work better or make them accessible to people that did not have access to it? I'm sure you can think of companies in your area. It doesn't have to be legal firms, but think of any company in your area that has a bad website that you think they got a great product. They should have more customers. Why don't they have more customers? Go look at their website. Are they advertising on Google? Do they have a good Google presence? A lot of people who manage these companies might recognize that they need that. And if you showed up with a result, you take some examples. Like, here's a company in Akron that has a similar product to yours. They did this on Google and increased their revenue this much. You know, those types of things are valuable case studies. Those are great side hustles. Sometimes if it's an IT related thing, a lot of companies just need IT support and they're willing to do that after hours. The problem really is the after hours part, isn't it? The after hours piece is the challenge because you have to have a job that you're able to do while other people are not at their job. That can be an issue. So sometimes being a more of the consultative role doesn't necessarily work as a good side hustle. But having something that you can do after hours and you kind of communicate during lunchtime, during breaks. Oh, what do you need? Let's do some SEO. Let's monitor it. Let's see what's happening with your website. Those are great things to do. But it may be beyond the scope of that. There's a lot of companies that need other types of support. Maybe your side hustle is making videos like this. You know, I started with no videos. So I started making videos after hours when I was traveling to other cities. You're sitting in a hotel room at night. You get room service. You go get a sandwich, something to drink. The TV's on with something. It's all wasted time. You're away from home. So what do you do? Well, I built a business. And anybody can do that. You just have to figure it out. You know, that's a challenge. And there's plenty of places to go with that. But it's more about finding a niche. Find something that somebody's not doing well in your area and go exploit that lack of attention. I think that's really what built this here is that I go online even today and I find study materials for certification is lacking. It's not focused. It's teaching things that aren't even in the exam objectives. It's haphazardly thrown together. It's it's just good enough. I hate with a passion just good enough. I hate it. I want the best. If I'm studying for the certification, I don't want just good enough. But a lot of people who make content for some reason feel that just good enough is either what they want to produce or what they can produce. And there's an opportunity when you find those situations. So I think that's sort of a broad answer to finding a good IT-focused side hustle, a very broad answer. There's other things you can think about doing that are sort of offline computer-related side hustles. There are companies doing, there's affiliate type things you can do. Go find the jobs, build your own business doing affiliate marketing. There's businesses people have creating their own content, having subscription products, making their own box products. Everybody, the monthly box of a thing. There are people that have been able to do that. Or simply taking a single idea, creating a new set of products around it, and selling those products online. Etsy, people are making great money on Etsy. People are making great money on eBay. Those are opportunities. You just have to have the right product. And it's not always easy to have the right product because you do run into situations where people will take your idea and they'll try to duplicate it. So you have to think about that when you're building this business plan. You're becoming a business person when you do this. You're no longer working for someone else. You're working for yourself. It's a different perspective. And there's a lot of moving parts to this. You have to think about, are you going to be working as an LLC? Are you going to be, what's your tax configuration? How's the revenue represented? How do you handle that on your taxes? You need a good support team. You need a good accountant. I have a great accountant. He sets me straight. He says, just do this and you're good. I have a good legal group that handles the intellectual property side of things. But there's a lot that you're going to be doing this on yourself. But I try to distribute those out. So somebody else does my web hosting. Somebody else handles the web hosting management. Somebody else handles the marketing piece of this. Somebody else handles the accounting, the legal. There's a whole bunch of bubbles that go around this. And it seems like it might be a lot to deal with, but it really isn't. Once you have all of the key pieces in place, you can just do what you want to do. Everything else is sort of covered at that point. And it's really not hard. Even when you get into having employees and you need to pay people, and I have a good payroll company. I don't do anything. I am happy to pay someone else to handle that for me because I don't want to be responsible for that. I have other things to do. I want to make videos. I want to do live streams. I want to make training materials. That's what I want to do. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm doing something wrong. So you also have to think about what you want to do as a company. Do you want to spend your time working with other third parties on SEO? Then you need a good accountant. You need a good legal team. You need a good payroll. All those things happen. Now, if you're starting at the beginning, you can be, at least in the United States, it's very easy. You can have your, just take the revenue at the end of the year. That revenue is something you can put on your taxes, and then you just pay your taxes on it. And hopefully you're so successful that you get penalized for making too much money, and then the next year you start paying your taxes in quarterly payments. You should strive to get to this point. But you get a good accountant who makes sure that you don't pay penalties. They keep track of what's going on, and they tell you, you need to start paying some quarterly taxes. So there's those things that happen too. That's the real key. Now, the way that I read chat, the way this works, a lot of people wonder during the live streams, that's not the right camera. During the live streams, there's a lot going on. But I'm the only one in here. There's nobody else doing the live stream. So I'm always reading the chat as it goes by here. And as people are putting things in the chat, I just slide the mouse over and I nuke things or move things around or just take care of whatever happens to be taken care of. I can effectively monitor and very quickly moderate from there. So if you're angry at the moderator, you're angry at me. I'm so sorry. And sometimes I accidentally moderate. Sometimes things get deleted that probably should not have been. But that's one of the challenges when I'm reading from the slides that are here. I'm watching the chats here. I'm showing you questions and doing other things on this screen. And then the video switching is done here. So there's a lot kind of at arm's length that's going on. But most of the time, it's a well-oiled machine. And I'm just reading the chat. Does the chat require a lot of moderation? No, it does not. There's practically no moderation, but I am reading it as it goes by. I see what everybody's putting into the chat. So I kind of get a feel for what people want to hear about, and having those things there. I don't have anything else under the desk. No foot massagers, no fancy things. You can't see under there. There's not a lot. This is a custom desk that was created by a company that's no longer business. They made desks for, I think they were based out of California, and they made desks for the movie industry, specifically the post-production. So these desks would normally have like different levels, and there would be big screens. You could have multiple output for audio. It has a lot, that you can do, but it's very big. It's a big, my arms are stretched out and they're not even as, I can't even reach the other corner of the desk. That's how short I am to stretch between all of these. But they have an 18-inch rack on left side, an 18-inch rack, 19-inch rack on the left side and right side. Why did I say 18? 19-inch racks, left side and right side. So everything that is happening here is all in this desk. So all the equipment, all the video, all the audio, everything is in the desk. All the lights in the front are on the desk. Soon the lights on the left and right, I already have the poles up. They will be on the desk. So everything is all happening here. So the folks in the chat room, we talked about moderation and what it takes and how I just go over and click it. So yeah, there's things when you're watching it on the replay, you don't see the message deleted. And that's my goal, is that people who are watching the replay, I don't want them to see the answers before the answers appear. So they get nuked in live stream, but they never appear in the replay. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish. Because there's a lot more people that watch us on the replay than watch us live. Just sort of the way it works. Andrew with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you for the support, Andrew. Andrew writes, I just finished watching all your Security Plus playlist on my breaks. I don't know whether to congratulate you or feel sorry for you, but I appreciate it either way. Are there jobs that would allow me to work from home with remote access? These days, there's a lot of jobs out there with remote access, isn't there? Quite a few. We're in this sort of weird place right now. Obviously, a year ago, everybody was remote. Effectively, most of us, maybe just over a year ago. We were all focused on working remotely. And as it turns out, we were able to do it pretty well, weren't we? We all did remote access very, very well. Then things started to get better, and we have management that has now told many people, we're going to go back in the office now. Now, as IT people, most of what we do is over the phone. We're often communicating and fixing devices that are in another city, another state, another country, or another floor. They're not next to our desk. We have to SSH to do our job. And if we're doing that, then why do I need to be sitting in another desk at another building? I can sit at my desk in this building where I live and do exactly the same thing. The argument from management is that we all need to be able to kind of poke our heads in everybody's cube and say, what do you think of this? And have a conversation. And there is validity to that. There is something about everybody working together in the same building, in the same floor. I started with Palo Alto Networks when they were startup. I was the 95th employee of Palo Alto Networks. So I had not worked for a startup really before then. Most of the companies I work with had been well-established, in many cases public companies. But I started working with them as a startup. And one of the primary goals of their management team was that we want everybody in this room. Now, obviously, if you're selling, if you're supporting, if you're doing systems engineering, you're seeing customers at their site. That's different. But all the support team, in fact, the support team for tech support and the development team literally sat next to each other so that they could be on the phone with the customer and they go, hey, does that IPsec parameter, does that do a thing? Yes, it does. Okay. Now we know what does. Or I ran into this problem. Can we fix that? They literally could stick their head around the corner and ask questions of the person who created the code that's running for that customer. That was a remarkable time to be with a company like that, because first we had a technology nobody else had. Next generation firewall, something we all know what it is now, and many companies tout to have that, but nobody had it. It was all brand new. And so it was interesting to watch support, our shipping team, our development team, our QA team, our marketing team. Everybody was in the same room. It was all an open room. And we could all have conversations in the room about those things. Whenever I'd go to corporate and visit, I'd be able to we just walk around and talk to support. And they go, how's that customer we talked to last week? Are they okay? Is there anything we need to do? Yeah, we need to fix that thing with on that screen. Oh yeah, I've already given it over here to these guys. They're going to do that. It's going to be in the next rev. And then we go marketing team. Where are we going to, are you coming down to Florida? Are we going to do a presentation? Are we going to be at that trade show? You know, it was great to have the conversation. I get it that you're in the room and everybody can kind of have that community. And it did make for a different work environment. Much better than being at home and simply doing your job and hitting a button and things would happen. We sort of made something else of this company by everybody being there. So I get why manufacturers and managers and companies would like to have people in the same room. I understand. But this is also one of these interesting jobs for many of us that are network administrators, system administrators, and people who are working for very, very large corporations. Much of what you can do from home. So that's one of those where, are there jobs out there that are jobs where you can work from home? Absolutely, there is. There's fewer and fewer available all the time, though, it seems. Everybody's kind of transitioning back to the office for whatever reason, for many different reasons. And we can argue about why that's a good idea and why they're doing it, and we can have an entire day of that for us. But that's one where I think the jobs companies have realized maybe we can hire smart people who don't necessarily are in this building. Let's hire smart people that can be located anywhere in the world and have them do this job for us. Great. So let's do that. And that's why you see jobs posted these days. Many, many more jobs that are remote jobs today than perhaps there've been in recent years. Now's the time to take advantage of that. Will it stay that way? I don't know. Hard to tell. But plenty more to choose from now than almost any other time. It's a great opportunity if you're trying to get that remote access job and be working through those. Timo in the chat room, have you considered getting on TikTok and doing 60-second, 3-minute cyber seconds? I think I'm outside that demo. I don't know if I'm in the TikTok demo. I don't know. I generally don't want to be on TikTok because of the significant security issues that were originally on the TikTok side. The app itself, I don't know if you've ever read through prior to and in fact, I'm not sure all of these security issues were ever resolved. But there was a significant audit done on the TikTok app about what information TikTok was sending outside of the country. And this is not a political issue. It's more of a privacy issue. That was a big warning sign for everybody, or it should have been. And of course, the federal government of the United States got involved and said, if you don't fix this, if you don't divest this, if you don't get someone else involved in this, we're going to block this app, which for some reason people thought was bad, that this app was stealing your content, stealing your personal information, and we were trying to block it. This is sort of IT Security 101, but for some reason it turned into something other than that, as these things tend to do. Nothing more frustrating than taking something purely technical and turning it into a political fight, because then it's worthless. Now it's us just fighting in the mud, and it doesn't actually solve the problem. I'm worried that the problem was never solved, which was a significant privacy concern. I mean, taking what's in your clipboard, sending in your clipboard off to a third party, taking your location, sending your location to a third party. There's things in my clipboard I don't want to be sent to a third party. Those are challenging to have to deal with. So I have intentionally avoided being anywhere near TikTok for that reason. So you say TikTok equals spyware. It was worse than that. It was more than spyware. It was they were looking for personal information. And that's why you saw, like, the federal government said, no, you can't even load this on your phones. We don't even know what it's pulling off these phones and sending somewhere else. I would not want a lot of the things I do day to day. I deal with sensitive information. I deal with your sensitive information. I deal with, I have all these voucher numbers that I'm working through. These vouchers are relatively expensive. I have to buy the vouchers so that I can get them to you. So I'll buy a big chunk of vouchers. I stick it in if it's on my machine, I don't want that list getting out. So there's all kinds of security concerns around that. And I've just not been convinced that there's been any good fixes for that at this point. Plus, I don't know if I'm not sure I'm in the demo. I think we'll stick to the YouTube demo. I think people are accustomed to seeing me there, and I think that works out pretty well. I'm not opposed to doing other formats of material. I just think the formats I'm doing now are working pretty well, and I'm happy focusing on these at the moment. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. One never knows. I didn't think I'd be doing live streams before I started doing them. I didn't think I'd be have as many videos on YouTube as I thought I have today. So you never know with these things. It may turn out that if you're not on TikTok, forget it. You better be there. Okay, well, tomorrow I'm on TikTok. So these things tend to change instantly. I will just have to figure out where I'm going next and how it works and what makes sense. And am I creating content that's actually valuable that people can use? Nobody wants to see me review an iPhone. I don't think they do. So I don't do that. So could I come up with some 3-minute TikTok segments? I don't know. That's if I need TikTok, the world is upside down. Got to tell you, the world's a little upside down anyway. It's the internet. It's never straight up. It's always in motion. There's always something interesting going on. And I'm more than happy to follow whatever's interesting, but only if there's value. I think I've said in the past, I say it all the time, is that my goal is to create material for you that will get you a job or get you a better job. And if what I am doing is not working towards that goal, then I'm not doing something right. I'm very, very laser focused with this. Now, later on, if we expand out and we want to try different things, that's different. But that means that I've got another project with another objective that we would be working on. So that's the key. So that I think is important. Yeah, an explanation. I can talk for hours about an explanation. I can get things down to 30 seconds. And that's certainly something to consider, but it's one to think about. Kim has a good recommendation. Take all the daily questions and put them in my highlights on Instagram, so you can just flip through. What we've done so far is, managing highlights on Instagram is not as easy as one would think. Instagram and sort of Facebook in general are very tight on API, so I can't automate it. It's not completely straightforward in how to manage and how these things will be properly preserved on Instagram as a highlight. So I just haven't done that intentionally. What we have done instead is that every one of those pop quizzes has some hashtags that you can search for that hopefully will be relatively unique, so that you can simply do a hashtag search and then find all of the pop quizzes for that particular hashtag. That's the way we're sort of managing the process now. Because I think if you're on Instagram, you'd love to be able to go through the Q&A and do it in a way that's on Instagram. You've got the carousel that you can just flip around. I think it's kind of a neat thing to go through. And you've got pictures. I try to put pictures of places around the world. I document where those are so you can at least see. So it's kind of nice to get a little bonus. You answer the question, then you can see an interesting place that's somewhere else. But not really planning to change it, to add it to stories or highlights or some of the other Instagram features, just because there are some shortcomings with the management and ongoing availability of the content when you use those features. And that's out of my hands. That's why all of my pop quizzes ultimately are always posted on my website, because I control those. I know what's going to happen with those. I can archive those. I can make sure the right material is being presented to you. Ultimately, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter are sort of secondary sources of this material. And I don't necessarily put a lot of time and effort into customizing them to work better, because ultimately they will simply disappoint me, as they always have. The online social media platforms are not designed for someone to create content, put their content there, store it there, and have people view it, other than YouTube. Although YouTube is not perfect, but they've done an excellent job at providing a platform for people with content like mine. So that's probably a different type of resource. But at least, you've got some ideas of where you can go with this. And I simply plan to keep doing it on Instagram, although not in any other of their fancy features, I'm afraid. What operating system do I daily drive? Most of the time, my operating system of choice is Mac OS. That's what's in front of me. But I've got different ones. So Mac OS is what I'm normally working in to make this happen. Interestingly enough, the biggest reason I'm in Mac OS is that it has never rebooted on me because of a time of day, because it wanted to. When I was working and creating videos very early on in this, I would create a video back in the day, and then I would need these videos. I would create 5 or 6 videos, and they would need to render overnight. Rendering took a while. Even for 5 to 10 minute videos, it would take an hour to render a video. That's a lot of time. So I would queue them up, I would click render, and then I would go to bed. And then I wake up in the morning, all my videos are rendered like magic. But for some reason, Windows felt that at certain times, it would simply need to reboot. Hey, I installed a new patch. I'm just going to go ahead and reboot. So I would go to bed. An hour later, my system would reboot, and then it would sit there all night long in a rebooted form, not rendering. And then I'd wake up, I'd come into my office, and then nothing was done. Wait, computer, I told you to render. What happened? And there'd be a message, Windows restarted your computer. Like, okay, I'm a smart person. I'm an IT person. I found the registry settings to tell Windows not to do this. I updated the configuration settings in Windows that it would never reboot again. No problem. Got it. And then, of course, Windows would perform an update. It would flip back the changes I made, and then it would reboot itself in the middle of a render. And I just got tired of it and decided, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. It was painful to switch over to Mac OS. Not really necessary to do that, but really the driving reason was have it work properly, have it not reboot in the middle of the night. That's what we've got now. I've been able to do that. It was painful. It's a relatively expensive move, but for the type of content that we create, it's been a good move. It's worked out well. Now, of course, we have Windows machines doing other things. I've got Linux. If you're on my website, you're on Linux. I don't care what operating system. I want to use the operating system that makes sense for what the task is at hand. And that's, that's one of those things. Just figure out what makes sense and use that. I'm not going to use Windows on a web server. I'm not going to use Mac OS on a web server. I'm going to use Linux. Makes sense. So I manage my Linux box, and I manage my Windows machines, and I manage my Mac OS. So I don't care. Just find the right way to implement it, and you're good. Mac OS has worked pretty well. I just got my new Mac OS MacBook Pro, which is their new M1 Pro chip. And it's crazy ridiculous. It is amazing technology. To the point that I'm wondering, what has Intel and AMD been doing all this time? How come they didn't create something like that for Windows? That would have been amazing, because they've sort of leapfrogged over everybody to create a chip that provides me with what the things that I need for this job. So that's remarkable. So I noticed that if you've noticed, this is an iMac Pro. This is a 2017 iMac. It's like 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old at this point. So it is super old in the world of video creation and rendering. This is ridiculous to do 4K renders on this box from 2017, but it does it pretty darn well. It works very well for a device this old. You're not old. I don't want to talk badly of you. Please be good to me, because it's a workhorse. But I just saw on Mac Rumors that Apple is planning to release a new version of their iMac, their 27-inch iMac. The rumor is that it will be same size or similar, but have the newer chipset in it. So I think that's going to be fantastic to have that there. Very useful. Well, that is, we're at the end, we're a little over our second hour. I think that's probably a pretty good place to stop. Right after this, now that we've gone through my daily drive and you've learned more about me and the operating systems I choose than anybody really should be concerned about, but here we are. I want to thank you all for being here in our after show. Thanks for being here in the first hour of the study group as well. It's always fun to do the Q&A, see what we know, see what we don't know, ask things in a different way, get us thinking a different way, and get prepared for your Security Plus exam. One of the best ways to do it. Thanks for hanging out in the second hour. It's always fun to ask and answer questions that are just all over the place. And it's always fun to have you there and have the questions coming in as well. Plenty to find on the website. All of our Security Plus materials are out there and available out on ProfessorMesser.com. We got another one of these planned for next month, coming back for our A+, our Network Plus, and our Security Plus study groups. Thanks for being here for this one. We will see you next time on the Security Plus study group. Thanks, everyone.